Yo, what's going on everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another Boruto 2 Blue Vortex news update, and today we have massive spoilers for the upcoming Boruto 2 Blue Vortex manga chapter that are gonna shake things up in a major way in universe, as well as confirmation to a few questions that we've had in the community for the last few months that have finally been answered. For new viewers, the chapter drops officially on the 20th on Manga Plus and via Viz Media's Shonen Jump app. Both apps are free to read the chapter, and so the review is going to be dropping either on the 20th or the 21st, depending on how much time my chapter review editor needs to do the video. So I thank you in advance for your patience for the review. For those of you guys who are asking about the community response video for chapter 14, that's going to be dropping tomorrow on the 20th, depending on whether or not the chapter reviews running ahead or behind schedule. So with that out of the way, let's dive into what we have, which as always, I'm only going to cover the bits that stand out, and for the parts I'm waiting for full translations on, we're going to save that to touch on the review. So do not treat this video like the chapter review itself. So the biggest reveal that we have in the chapter is that the hidden sand village has indeed been attacked during this time period, which confirms what we've said here on the channel, which is that Matsuri, when she was off looking for the person who was helping Boruto, who we now know is Kashin Koji, because Matsuri, she was in the land of wind, it was more likely than not meant to set up the fact that she ran into the hidden sand village ninjas. Well, based on this chapter, she didn't just run into any sand village ninjas. She pulled up on the hidden sand village itself and made it a whole family affair, and she beat the brakes off of Gaara, and she left this man near death based on the reporting that we have from characters in universe, mainly Kankuro, which that is huge in itself because we're getting more concrete scaling information on how strong these awakened shinju are, given that Gaara is not weak and Boruto era Gaara is stronger than he was in the 4th Great Ninja War, and he is stronger than any version of the 5 Kage who fought Madara, a couple of tiers higher if we're being honest, but we'll save that breakdown for a later video because it's too much to get into in order to explain the various scaling information due to the fact that a lot of stuff is not shown to you in the anime. The biggest thing here also is that Matsuri, she appears to have had no trouble bullying Gaara, and in the process she looked over Gaara's adopted son, she beat the brakes off him too, and in the process either she bit Shinki or one of the Ten Tails with her bit Shinki and it turned him into a tree. This of course will officially kill the new Shinju is Baryon Naruto or any other version of Naruto, which logically speaking never made any sense given that Naruto is in a whole different dimension, and if they had access to Naruto's chakra they wouldn't have needed to go into Konoha looking for him. But this is where it gets interesting. Never mind the fact that the Shinju literally looks like Shinki when you look at the designs. Video link down in the description box. The story doesn't hesitate letting us know the full name of the Shinki awakened Shinju, and the name, it is so fitting here. It's Ryu, and we're continuing to see the trend with the awakened Shinju and the names that Jura gives them being names that directly relate to the people who they're able to bite and use as their primary chakra source. The name chosen for the Shinki Shinju being Ryu, which depending on the translation you go with, it can mean dragon, noble, or flow. Shinki being the adopted son of Gaara, a member of the Kazekage clan in the Sand Village, which makes him nobility. That lines up, noble. The other translation you can go with is that he's flow, as in flowing sand, like the very iron sand that flows from his body due to the Kekkei Genkai that flows in his veins. It's also very fitting, and it makes you look at the book that Jura is carrying that much differently now, because it seems as if he's got information on just about every shinobi type ever existed or currently exists, and it seems like that's how he's coming up with the names for the people, because he's giving them names that directly correlate to information that could only be gained by someone who knows about those individual people. The other answer that we get in this chapter is that we get confirmation that Jura is indeed the main body of the Ten Tails itself, which, as myself and King Bullet said in our collab over on his channel, and as I doubled down on in the whole Jura is not Kakashi video, it lines up with the translation of his name. Jura, depending on the lettering system you use, can mean 10th demon, and the Ten Tails is the 10th tailed beast, which would make it the 10th demon. Those Boruto databases about Shibai and the God Tree, they just hit that much more interesting now, given that Shibai has the connection to the God Tree, and now the primary villain leading this army is indeed the human personification of of the Ten Tails itself, and the Ten Tails becomes the God Tree, which now that we know that Ikimoto is inspired by the Matrix, you can see some of the framework of where this might be going and how he is altering the initial draft that Kishimoto had for Boruto's story. I highly recommend watching the Matrix movies if you haven't already, because I think we can see the end game now. The next thing that stands out here is that there's a rift between Ino and Shikamaru that develops in this chapter, exactly like we said in yesterday's video would be the case. Ino was never won over completely by Boruto's story, and it speaks volumes to how overpowered Omnipotence is as a Shinjutsu power, which is why I routinely say fans downplay the effects of Omnipotence. Based on what I've seen online, as well as most importantly reading comments on videos that some of you guys have been leaving in the hours since the spoilers dropped, there's this confusion as to why Ino suddenly doesn't believe Boruto and doesn't think Shikamaru is in the right for supporting him. This was not sudden, and this is not Ino out of character, and I will tell you, watch the Ino video uploaded yesterday that will be in the end credits of this video, where I explain why Ino was never truly on Team Boruto and why, unless she reads Boruto's mind for herself, she is not going to warm up to this idea and might go as far as to protect Shikamaru from making what she herself believes is a mistake due to the deathbed promise that she made to Asuma to watch over Shikamaru and protect him from himself. Again, I'm not going to repeat those points, but if you think she's being out of character, I strongly recommend watching the video I just referenced. The other thing that these spoilers reveals is that Boruto, his smart mouth is still there, and despite his sarcasm, it's kind of heartbreaking to see some of the dialogue that he has when you read in between the lines, which you have to do with Boruto's character. Again, I've said this before, but Boruto isn't one of those shonen stories that's going to spoon feed you every bit of characterization. It takes more of the approach of what you see with Bleach, where a lot of the character development, it is subtle and you have to read between the lines with it, which is new for the Naruto franchise. As Kishimoto's own editor alluded to, Naruto is more spoon-fed and deals more with action. It's not as subtle as Bleach and One Piece. So there was a moment where Boruto is enduring the interrogation by Ibiki and Konohamaru, where Boruto's been beaten to a pulp during the rough methods of Ibiki to get answers out of him, and Ibiki promises to do even more to him because he's waiting for 3 years, and Boruto delivers the most sarcastic and unserious line ever, but also one that is very heartbreaking when you dig into Boruto's character. He tells Boruto he's been waiting 3 years to punch Boruto, which we know is because Ibiki and the other Konoha shinobi, they believe that Boruto killed the 7th Hokage, and so their emotions, they've been on 10 this entire time. Yet Boruto replies back with a stern look in his eyes that is both annoyed as hell as well as sad, where he tells him that he must have been really bored the last 3 years if all he could think about was Boruto and punching him in the face, and he says that he envies him, and this is where it should hit you in the feels. The sarcasm you see right here, that's consistent with how Kishimoto explained Boruto's character back in 2015 when Boruto the movie was coming out, and then doubling down again in 2016 when Boruto's manga was being released, where he said, unlike Boruto's father Naruto, Boruto is a master of sarcasm and he has a smart mouth because of how intelligent he is, which, as they say, sarcasm is the language of the intelligent. He gave Ibiki a backhanded insult by saying that if he was the highlight of Ibiki for the last 3 years, where all he could think about was him, when you're supposed to be out finding Boruto and out finding Code, your last 3 years, they must have sucked. Yet when Boruto says he envies him, your hearts, they should be collectively breaking here because of what this means. That's Boruto saying without saying that he misses having an everyday life where things pretty much such as this, where the only thing that Boruto would have had to worry about, super petty things, basically first world problems. Just as you might be annoyed that, say, your internet is buffering when you're watching something, that's a first world problem. Thinking about Boruto and wanting to punch him in the face, that is a first world problem. For Boruto, the last 3 years, it has seen him on the run from the only home he's ever known, blamed for the death of his parents that he didn't even commit, sharing thoughts with an alien parasite who is always out to gaslight him, hiding from Anbu Black Ops, and hiding from Code's army of 10-tailed soldiers looking to finish the job, carrying the burden of being responsible for his sensei's death, and now knowing the threat of Jura that is coming, and knowing that in almost every possible future that Kashin Koji saw, it resulted in Boruto dying and the world being destroyed. When you compare what Boruto had to deal with the last 3 years, you can see why he's saying he envies Ibiki. It's not much, but that's some of the great character writing that you're getting with Boruto right here. We also learned that Konohamaru's emotions, they are super worked up right now. He's talking crazy to Boruto during the interrogation, talking about how his friends are dead because of Boruto, watching unbothered as Ibiki is torturing the kid for answers, and Boruto doesn't break. Even when Konohamaru blames Boruto for the deaths of the Jonin, who he calls his friends, showing that Kawaki's lied to the sensory unit about Boruto being there at the site of the murdered Jonin, and implying that Boruto was working with them. Even though Konohamaru saw with his own eyes that Boruto is fighting him, it shows Boruto has more dead bodies and more blood on his ledger than deserve to be there because Boruto's innocent. Again, dramatic irony. We know that. Characters in the universe don't. Everything is going exactly as Kawaki intended. And in the chapter, Kawaki is smug as hell right now about it. And it's because in his mind, he's made checkmate. Boruto can't mold chakra, so he can't use chakra for jutsu or superhuman strength. He can't use shinjutsu because he has no access to chakra. The elders, they're pushing for Boruto to be executed in this very chapter. Everyone in the village, they want Boruto dead. Right now, in this very moment, Kawaki, he's giving off major Light Yagami vibes. He thinks that he's won and everything's going according to his plan. Just as Light thought that the fake cure would be able to kill Nier for him, Kawaki is certain of his victory here because, in short, no chakra means anyone could kill him. Think of the weakest Konoha shinobi you can think of. So basically think of part 1 Sakura as a Ganin. If you transported her through a time machine into Konoha right now, she'd be able to look at Boruto when he's under these conditions and she could kill him. Kawaki knows that, and so he's so smug, and he's got that smug look on his face because he thinks he won. He's basically just saying, nah, I'd win. Yet, as is often the case with shonen antagonists, they have this really bad habit of overestimating or celebrating too early. Boruto does escape in this chapter, and it's because of what Mitsuki does that Boruto is able to escape, which is pretty huge because it shows that Boruto's fight with Mitsuki and his conversation afterwards, it definitely got through to him, and we're seeing the framework being laid out for what we said here on the channel will be the theme and the core of Boruto Part 2 story, which is Boruto 2 Blue Vortex is the story of one boy who only knew love, lost that love because he took it for granted, and he's going on his journey to the west to reclaim his birthright and everything he took for granted, which that boy is obviously Boruto. The other boy, that boy is Kawaki, who is the boy who never knew what it means to be loved unconditionally, which means he never knew how to accept love when it was being given to him by Naruto, and he has now been given the very love that he wants via his underhanded methods of theft and deceit, and he is slowly losing it all until he hits rock bottom and is only there with someone like Ada and Boruto there to bring him back to his senses. Writing wise, Mitsuki helping Boruto, it makes sense when you look at it from this perspective. There's more that happens in this chapter, but based on everything I've seen, this is going to be a text heavy chapter, so I don't want to go too far into details until I can send the raw pages that have answers about a set of translators who have helped me out in the past, particularly chapter reviews. So I don't want to jump the gun and say something without knowing with certainty that this is what's being said or is close enough in tone to pass it off to you guys as being fact. Reminder, the chapter will be out on the 20th officially on Shueisha's Manga Plus app and Viz Media's Shonen Jump app, both of which are free to use, and the review will likely be out on the 20th or the 21st. Depending on how long my editor needs to cook the video, I'm gonna try and send him the audio tonight. In the meantime, if you're questioning Ino's decision, click here on the video on the right to find out why I think you're wrong, or click here on the left for my newest Chainsaw Man chapter review, which the messaging in this chapter, especially given the current political climate in the United States, is sure to slap some of you guys in the face and have you in your feelings.